Assalamu alaikum and welcome back, sisters. You're watching Women's AM with myself, Liz, and joining me today we have Sister Ayan and Sister Razia Adnan. As promised, we're now going to share an inspirational quote that I'm sure will offer us all food for thought. To completely trust in Allah is to be like a child who knows deeply that even if he does not call for the mother is totally aware of his condition and is looking after him. So I think this is, this is a really interesting quote. What I thought when I read it and how I felt when I read it is comparing that relationship of our mother to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it got me thinking about how they're similar and how they're different. And I think for me, I always think of I think I found, certainly when I first came into Islam, establishing that relationship with Allah, I actually found quite difficult, to be honest. And that's why, in Ramadan, when obviously our iman is heightened and that relationship is closer than it ever is, I'm really kind of trying to get the most that I absolutely can out of these days, because sometimes we can feel estranged from Allah.
It's a really emotional connection.
Yeah.
And when I read the quote, to be honest, I burst into tears because it reminded me of when I had surgery a few years back.
Oh, really?
And I went into a state of anxiety and a state of stress, you know, when you feel you're all alone.
Yes.
And nobody was there, and I had to let go and trust in Allah.
Yeah.
And, I found my Allah through salah, through du'as.
Yeah.
And it's that trust that you gain, when you really need it, and you turn and there's nobody there but Allah.
But just
so it's very emotional.
It's beautiful in the sense because it makes that comparison between a mother and a child, because no one loves their child more than a mother. No one is more protective over their child than a mother. And you find this whether you look at human beings or even you look at animals and the way that they're so protective, without any regard to their own safety, just for the safety of their children. And you compare that to the love that Allah has for His creation, and it's far greater than that. And I think it's really beautiful that there's that comparison there, and also it just kind of reinforces that tawakkul in Allah, that everything is going to happen as they're meant to happen. So whatever is that that you're supposed to gain or whatever that you're supposed to lose, it's in Allah's hands. It's all according to His divine plan, and that it's all there for you for a reason. And Allah is not going to put a burden on you that you can't bear. Exactly.
I think that's true, but I think that's sometimes easier said than done. I don't know. Am I the only one that struggled or still struggles sometimes with this kind of trust in Allah? Sometimes I still,
Iman fluctuates. There's your good days when you feel strong. And it's probably got something to do with the hormones as well. It's humans. As humans, we go up and down. What the Prophet ﷺ said about Iman being like a herd of sheep. And you got to keep at your salah, your duties. You got to keep strong and associate with good people. To keep the Iman at a good level.
I think you just kind of have to acknowledge that you're human. I think everyone tends to think that you've always got to have your Iman is supposed to be like this. It never wavers, and I think that's really unrealistic, because we're gonna have low points. But I think it's important to have mechanisms in place that are going to help reel us back in if we feel like we're dropping off a little bit and we think like, oh, why is this happening to me? And
I think that's true.
You have to have mechanisms in place.
So what have you got any tips maybe that somebody can use, or maybe I can use to kind of invest in that relationship, to gain that trust or to heighten that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
I think a really nice thing, and I've kind of picked this up from somebody else, is post-it notes. So on days where you feel really, really good, write little notes to yourself, either ayahs of the Quran or parts of hadith, and put it on the post-it notes and just stick it in random places around the house. So on the inside of your kitchen cabinet, on these places, so that it will pop out at you on a day where maybe you are feeling a bit low, and then you open up and you're just like,
to connect to
alhamdulillah.
Would be take some time out, because it's never going to happen unless you sit down for 5 minutes and just give yourself a breather, and you think, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes, and I'm just going to, meditate.
I think that's true, actually. I think any relationship we have to invest in it, isn't it? We have to invest, time and energy into it, and obviously relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exactly the same. If we don't take that time out, then we're never going to gain that closeness and get the benefits.
And good friends make a massive difference, especially when you feel, you know, when you feel that you are alone and lonely. You know, besides the, you know, making dua and praying salah, sometimes you need a bit of human connection as well. And if you exactly, so someone who's going to remind you of Allah, remind you of your purpose, and tell you, you know what, it's okay, we're here for you. You know, Allah is here for you regardless, but we're also here for you, and to give you that reminder as well is really important.
Yeah, I think that's true, and obviously there's many hadith about remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a gathering and about keeping good company. So some great practical tips there, and I'll be trying out a few of those, inshallah. Trust in Allah is something that's so beautiful, but as with any relationship, we have to work at it and we have to invest in it in order to get the full benefit. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of today's show, but do join us again tomorrow when we'll be discussing the last 10 days of Ramadan. Can you believe it? The last precious days have come round so quickly. Subhanallah, so let's try and make the most of them. You can tune in live at 11 a.m. for that. Before we go, here's another quick reminder of this week's competition.